On February 28, 2013, Jeff Bush went to sleep in his bedroom in Sefner, Florida. By morning, a sinkhole, 30 feet wide and 60 feet deep, had swallowed him whole. His body was never recovered. There were no warnings, no cracks, nothing. Sinkholes like this don't just happen. Beneath roughly 40% of the continental United States, soluble rock is quietly dissolving, and in aging American cities, leaking pipes and failing sewers are carving out voids that almost no one is monitoring. To understand why the ground is failing more often, you first need to understand what's actually happening beneath it. At its absolute simplest, a sinkhole is the sudden or gradual collapse of surface soil and rock into an empty space directly beneath it. The surface looks solid until the moment it fails, but the forces creating that hidden space run along two entirely different timelines. The first is natural, taking thousands of years. Rainwater absorbs carbon dioxide as it filters through the soil, turning slightly acidic. As this weak acid drains downward, it eats away at soluble bedrock like limestone, dolomite, or gypsum. Over millennia, this chemical wear carves out subterranean fissures, channels, and massive caverns. When the roof of one of these caves grows too thin to hold the weight above, it collapses. The second pathway takes only days, sometimes hours, and is entirely man-made. Beneath urban streets, broken water mains spray high-pressure streams into surrounding dirt. Corroded sewers leak, drawing fine soil particles into the pipes. This continuous washing clears away the subsurface pack, hollowing out a cavern of empty space directly under roads and buildings. While these two types of collapses look identical on the surface, their difference lies in cause and speed. In modern cities, the threat is rarely untouched nature. Most urban collapses are the direct result of infrastructure failure, where human systems, not geological time, erode the ground. This geological vulnerability is built directly into the geography of the nation. Roughly 40% of the continental United States is underlain by karst terrain, geological formations of soluble bedrock like limestone, gypsum, and dolomite that slowly dissolve when water drains through them. This fragile underground network stretches beneath major portions of Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, Alabama, and Texas. It is most severe in Florida, where the entire state sits on a highly soluble limestone platform. Because of this unstable geology, Florida experiences more than 6,000 reported sinkholes every single year. This same porous limestone network contains the Floridan Aquifer, a primary water source that provides clean drinking water to nearly 10 million people. The very channels that permit water to pool and flow also create massive, hidden caverns directly beneath homes and highways. When modern cities expand over these natural systems, they introduce forces that the fragile rock was never meant to bear. Heavy construction, intensive groundwater extraction, and prolonged droughts alter the pressure within these underground chambers. As water levels drop, the buoyant support holding up the heavy soil above disappears, leaving entire communities resting on a hollow foundation. On the night of February 28, 2013, in the suburban community of Sefner, Florida, 36-year-old Jeff Bush was asleep in his bedroom. Without any visible warning, the earth beneath his concrete slab foundation gave way. A massive cover-collapse sinkhole, measuring roughly 30 feet wide and 60 feet deep, opened directly under his bed. Within minutes, the entire bedroom vanished, pulling Jeff Bush into a dark subterranean void. His brother Jeremy Bush ran into the room after hearing a loud crash and screams, but found only a massive pit of churning mud and debris where the bedroom had just been. Jeremy frantically climbed into the hole to dig his brother out, but the soil was still actively collapsing, forcing emergency responders to pull him to safety before he was swallowed too. Jeff Bush's body was never recovered. The risk of further collapse was so severe that rescue workers and engineers could not safely enter the cavity. Within days, the home and two neighboring structures were demolished to protect the community. Crews eventually stabilized the empty space by filling it with 500 tons of gravel and concrete, sealing the property behind a permanent security fence. The tragedy drew immediate national media attention to sinkhole risk, showing that catastrophic ground failure can happen with zero surface signs beforehand. Even after remediation, the site remains unstable. The same underground cavity reopened in 2015 and again in 2023, showing how difficult it is to permanently stabilize this highly porous terrain. At 5:38 a.m. on February 12, 2014, the vulnerability of modern engineering was captured in real time. Inside the sky dome of the National Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky, the concrete floor suddenly vanished. Security cameras recorded the ground opening into a 40-foot wide void that dropped 30 feet down, swallowing 8 rare classic Corvettes. The vehicles, which included a historic 1962 Tuxedo black model and a 1993 PPG pace car, were valued at over $1 million. The footage went viral globally, showing a massive collapse happening in seconds inside an iconic public building. Geologists and engineers tracing the failure found that the museum sat directly above an ancient cave system in the regional limestone. For decades, water had been washing through the rock, quietly eroding the cavern roof. Because pre-construction geotechnical surveys failed to identify the cavern, the building's heavy concrete slab was left resting on a hollow foundation. When the rock ceiling reached its breaking point, it gave way, showing that even heavily engineered spaces are entirely dependent on the stability of the unseen geology beneath them. While natural geological formations present their own hazards, the immediate danger beneath most modern cities is entirely manufactured. Across the United States, municipal water mains, sewer lines, and stormwater pipes are quietly failing. The average age of these buried utility networks is now approximately 45 years. In the oldest urban districts, massive sections of cast iron pipes have been in continuous service for more than a century. These systems are being pushed far beyond the lifespans their original engineers designed them to survive. The process of a manufactured collapse is slow, silent, and completely hidden from view. It begins with a minor structural defect, a corroded joint, a hairline crack, or a small breach in a pressurized water main. As water escapes under pressure, it behaves like a hydraulic drill, slicing into the surrounding sand and clay. Conversely, a damaged sewer line can act as a vacuum, sucking loose soil particles through the breach with every passing wave of waste. Over weeks or months, this constant water flow washes away the compacted earth, leaving a hollow cavern in its place. On the surface, everything remains intact. Asphalt roads, concrete sidewalks, and heavy building foundations hold their position through structural bridging. But as the underground void expands, this self-supporting arch grows thinner and weaker. Eventually, the remaining layer of ground can no longer withstand the sheer weight of surface structures or the rhythmic vibration of daily traffic. The road or foundation simply drops into the empty space below, creating a sudden collapse that is often mislabeled as a freak geological anomaly. New York City operates one of the largest municipal water networks on Earth, maintaining approximately 6,800 miles of pressurized water mains. Much of this sprawling network is generations old, with some cast iron pipes still in active service dating back to the late 1800s. Under constant vibration and shifting earth, these brittle lines decay. The city loses roughly 36 million gallons of drinking water every single day through thousands of unmapped leaks. This escaping, highly pressurized water acts as a subterranean hydraulic drill, steadily washing away the compacted soil that supports the streets, sidewalks, and heavy buildings above. The physical consequence of this persistent underground erosion is staggering. New York City records more than 300 street collapses and sinkhole events every year. When these old mains suffer complete structural failures, the results are immediate. In 2023, a water main break beneath Fifth Avenue in Manhattan created a sinkhole approximately 20 feet wide in a matter of minutes, swallowing the asphalt and shutting down traffic across multiple city blocks. This disruption represents the cost of a civic management strategy focused on crisis response rather than systemic modernization. To keep its aging network functioning, New York City spends about $300 million annually on emergency water main repairs. This massive capital outlay is reactive, used to stabilize ground and patch iron only after a pipe has ruptured and the surface has collapsed. By prioritizing emergency repairs over planned replacement, the municipal government manages the crisis from one collapse to the next, leaving millions of residents walking above an increasingly hollow foundation. The surface of a city street can remain completely level and appear structurally sound even when a massive void has hollowed out the soil directly beneath it. Detecting these hidden cavities before they collapse requires specialized technology, but proactive scanning is rare. Ground-penetrating radar can map the subsurface by sending electromagnetic pulses into the earth, but the technology is highly constrained. It costs between $100 and $300 per linear foot to deploy, and its signals struggle to penetrate wet clay or high moisture, often failing to reach past a depth of 5 meters. The process also carries a 5 to 10% false positive rate, requiring expensive exploratory digging to verify the data. Because of these costs and technical limitations, almost no American cities run systematic grid-based scanning programs to monitor their streets. Instead, municipal search efforts are almost entirely reactive, deployed only after a collapse has occurred. This detection gap is worsened by the state of public records. Many local water and sewer utilities do not possess accurate maps or condition assessments for their oldest buried pipelines. Without active scanning or reliable utility records, the first indication of a structural failure is usually a sudden crack appearing in the pavement overnight. By then, the support is gone. The threat to this buried infrastructure is growing under shifting weather extremes. Intense rainfall events saturate the ground rapidly, accelerating the erosion of soil around already damaged pipes. This process is particularly destructive when a severe drought is followed by heavy downpours. During dry spells, clay-rich soils contract and shrink away from buried water lines, leaving them unsupported. When torrential rains finally return, the water rushes into these newly formed gaps, washing away the weakened soil and triggering rapid collapses. In northern cities, extreme winter temperature swings drive aggressive freeze-thaw cycles. As the ground freezes and expands, then thaws and contracts, it exerts massive physical pressure on brittle cast iron water mains, cracking joints and releasing pressurized water directly into the earth. Meanwhile, in coastal areas, rising sea levels push saltwater aquifers upward. This rising groundwater saturates the soil from below, softening the earth that supports older building foundations and corroding subterranean utilities. The physical consequence of these shifting environmental forces is already visible. Since 2010, insurance claims associated with ground subsidence and sinkholes have climbed by approximately 150%. This surge reflects a quiet but steady destabilization of the urban subsurface, where natural weather cycles are pushing vulnerable, man-made systems past their physical limits. Replacing the country's decaying water systems requires an estimated $1 trillion, according to the American Waterworks Association. Yet, the nation currently invests only about $3.3 billion each year into water pipe rehabilitation and replacement. At this current pace, it will take roughly 300 years to replace the water mains that are already failing today. The 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act attempted to address this massive funding gap by allocating $55 billion to water infrastructure. While this federal funding represents a historic step, it covers only 5% of the total nationwide need, leaving a massive financial deficit for local governments. This remaining shortfall leaves municipal utilities in a permanent state of crisis management. Because local budgets are stretched thin, cities continue to prioritize expensive emergency repairs over planned systematic upgrades. This reactive strategy keeps the cycle of ground failure in motion, leaving crews to patch broken pipes and fill voids only after the pavement has already collapsed. If you want to see more independent investigations into the systems that shape our daily lives, subscribe to the channel. When the surface finally gives way, the immediate aftermath transforms a local road failure into a prolonged municipal emergency. The physical impact extends far beyond a simple hole in the asphalt. A single collapse can simultaneously shear through high-pressure gas lines, snap electrical conduits, and sever vital fiber optic cables, instantly isolating entire neighborhoods. What begins as a localized disruption often forces utilities to shut off service to thousands of residents. Emergency excavation zones rapidly expand, sometimes consuming an entire city block as engineers struggle to find stable ground. For nearby structures, the danger is immediate. When a sinkhole compromises a foundation, a building can be declared uninhabitable within hours. This structural risk is matched by a growing financial one for property owners. In high-risk states, specialized sinkhole insurance is becoming increasingly difficult to obtain, and where it is available, premiums have climbed out of reach for average homeowners. By the time the dust settles and the detour signs are placed, the visible crater on the surface reveals just how much unseen destruction has already occurred below. Today, the systems keeping our cities dry and stable are quietly giving way. The danger isn't just volatile geology, but a pattern of systemic neglect. As climate pressures worsen, these hidden voids only grow. The real question isn't whether the ground beneath us is failing, but if anyone is actually looking. Subscribe for more investigative documentaries.